we had a request. Someone wrote on our website that they'd like to know about fruit trees and what ones grow well in our area. Well, we are so glad to answer this question, and if anyone has any other questions, things that they'd like us to talk about, please put it in the comment box on the website and we'll do our best to answer your questions. This is an apple tree. And apple trees do awesome in our area. They are so hardy. That's the one tree that you can count on making it. Cherry trees and peach trees are iffy. A lot of times we have mild winters, they do great for years, and then all of a sudden you have a real cold winter or a open winter that's dry, and you'll lose them to winter kill. And it's not something that you did, it's the weather, and you can't control that. Apricots do pretty well. Sometimes they will winter kill. Pear trees do pretty well. Sometimes they'll winter kill too, but they do pretty well. And if you have a protected spot, and by protected, we mean protected from winter sun and winter wind. You don't want them on the south side of anything, because they'll heat up during the day, go really cold at night, and that constant heating, cooling like that, it will winter kill them. So you want them somewhere where they might even be in the shade all winter long. That's a great place for them. On the east side, on the north side, that's a great place for them. So they are protected in the winter. We wanted to talk about spraying these fruit trees too. You start spraying your fruit trees early in the spring, when you first start seeing the buds swell. That's when you put on the horticultural oil or the Volk oil, and you just spray the whole thing and cover it, and it kills insects that are hiding in the bark, that are just waiting for your tree to bud out so they can start eating on it. That's when that's when you plant. Good heavens, I can't even talk. That's when you spray that to kill those insects. Then it's going to bud out and bloom. You do not ever want to spray your tree when the buds are open and it's in full bloom, because you'll kill the bees and you won't get any fruit. You won't get any pollination going on. You have to spray after the buds, all the blossoms have dropped completely off the tree. And then when they have, you spray every 14 days or so, and this is what you use. You use either malathion, which is really good on almost every tree pest, or fruit tree pest, malathion, or this fruit tree spray. This fruit tree spray is particularly good because it has both 7 and malathion in it, so it gets a few more pests. It's really a good thing. Hook it up to a dial and spray, and just spray your tree and shoot it up into it, completely coat everything. If you really want to keep the insects out of your tree and out of your fruit, you have to do that every 2 weeks. Really regular, just as regular as anything. Or otherwise, they'll get in there and they'll get a hold, because once they're inside the fruit, these sprays won't touch them. So you have to catch them before they go in. And these insecticides have a very low residual rate. They only last 7 to 14 days. So that's why you have to spray so often, is they're going to wear out, and then you won't have any protection on your tree. So you got to go out there and spray again. Spray like on the 1st and the 15th of every month, and then you'll be covered. Another thing we wanted to talk about is pruning these fruit trees. And most fruit trees, when they come, have already been trained and pruned quite a bit. Most of the time you don't want to do anything the first year, because they're trying to get their roots established, they're trying to get growing. You want to leave them alone, but the next year you can start doing things. And one thing you want to watch for is branches that are growing towards the middle of the tree, like this branch here. If that branch gets bigger, it's only going to do damage. So you want to take that off right here at the trunk. Just get rid of that branch. The rest of these, you can go out about 2/3 of their length and prune them off, and that makes them come out and bush out. And also, another thing is, you don't have to have so many of these branches. You can selectively thin them out. See how these two branches are close to rubbing all together? You can choose one of these and keep it and get rid of the other. Cut it right off at the base. And the one that I would get rid of is this one, because it comes up. When it's loaded with fruit, it's not going to be as strong as this one. The wider the angle, the stronger the branch. So if you have a choice, choose the one to cut off that has a more narrow angle. And Another thing is if anything's growing into the center of the tree, cut it off. These ones, when it gets bigger, a lot of these branches will cut off light to the center of the tree, and that light to the center of the tree is really important for fruit production. So you want to trim them off, but you don't want to cut them all the way off. You want to leave about 3 or 4 or 5 inches like this, because those little branches will produce fruit, but they won't cut off the light and the sunlight coming into the tree. But when you cut these branches, look, it's so important. There's buds on these branches that grow up and some that come out. And when you prune, you always want to prune just above one that comes out this way, not up this way, because if you prune that way, it'll grow up into the center of the tree. And that's not what you want. You want everything to grow out and to be healthy and strong. If you've got a mature fruit tree that you want to prune, it's really tempting to just go at it and cut a whole bunch off. But the rule of thumb is only take out 25% a year, because if you do more than that, you'll make suckers grow out everywhere. Like if you cut it off there, they'll just be growing out all over the tree, and it's really hard to control that. So you just do a few, and then if you get suckers, you can use sucker stopper on it. You can spray it on the branch. If they're coming up around the base of the tree, you can spray it on them. They'll control those suckers for 6 months, which is the whole growing season. Doesn't hurt the parent tree, but it gets rid of the suckers. When you plant this, one great thing to do is when you get it out of the pot is to take a knife and just lightly score the roots about 1/4 of the way around, and that makes it want to make more roots to repair that damage. But you don't cut deep enough to really hurt anything. Just lightly score it, and that will make the roots really go out. And be sure to use your root starter when you do it, because it will give it such a great start. And they're struggling when you first plant them. It's shocking to their system, and they need this to help them get going. Once they're planted, you want to know how to fertilize them. You can use 16-16-16, which is such a handy thing to use because you can use it on all your trees and shrubs. You can use it in your garden, you can use it in your flower beds, you can use it on your lawn. So most everybody has some of that around, and you just sprinkle a little bit around the outside of the watering hole. Make sure it doesn't get up around the trunk or it can burn the trunk, and then just water it in. Same with fruit trees as with anything else. When you water it, you got to have a big watering hole around it. Big watering hole, so that when you put in water, it'll hold 10-15 gallons, enough water that it will soak down past the bottom of the pot, of where the pot was. Also, another thing to remember is when you plant this tree or plant a fruit tree, you don't want to plant it any deeper than it is in the pot. Right here is where it's grafted, and up here is where the semi-dwarf tree comes from. Down here is a hardy rootstock. If you plant it up here, you're going to get shoots coming from this rootstock that aren't going to be like the rest of your tree. You don't want that. So be sure to plant it at the same level that it is in there. What we carry is mostly semi-dwarf trees. Great big trees, a regular tree, they'll get huge. Most people don't want a huge tree, so we carry semi-dwarf. Not dwarf, because dwarf are not as hardy as semi-dwarf are. And for our winters, we have to have the hardiest we can get. So remember not to plant it above that graft. Then, one other way you can fertilize is to use these kind of spikes, and you just put 3 around the tree, out a little ways from the tree, and they'll feed it all season. That's a really easy and great way to fertilize your tree. I hope we've answered the questions that you had when you asked about the fruit trees. Fruit trees are an awesome way to go, and we hope that you come in and talk to us more about this.